Welcome to the Jeff Miller Show. Each week, Jeff Miller of the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance talks with Podcast Village host Charlie Burney about trends in business, consulting, and much more. The Consulting Alliance offers strategic counsel and tactical support to businesses, corporations, and nonprofit organizations in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond.
After a short hiatus, I think, due to many factors, we are in the studio with Jeff Miller this afternoon on a beautiful, dreary Friday afternoon. How are you today, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Charlie. How are you?
It's good to see you. It's really nice to have you back in the studio. Lots going on. We had one of our podcast villagers go to a conference and meet the great, you may not know this name, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a very big deal in social media. And so we're very excited because we have his face there, and we did a full episode with him this morning. Very exciting. But what's going on? I think our last episode was with Tamar, and that was absolutely delightful, if I may say.
Well, thank you.
To have her in here.
She is a delightful daughter, as is our older daughter as well, so I don't want to get in trouble.
No,
here.
Don't get in trouble. Sorry, older daughter, you are welcome also in the studio. So since this was Take Your Child to Work Week, I'm going to post a special picture of Tamar and put that up this afternoon so we can talk about her.
Appreciate
that, we're going to
Charlie.
talk about something else today. You brought me a beautiful topic for our discussion.
Yeah, so I've been thinking of late, how large do we live life? How big are our aspirations? Are we playing to win? And that's true in life and in business, or whatever your profession might be. Sometimes we put such limitations on ourselves and we make things so complicated that we can't even get out of the starting gate. For dinner tonight, I'm making chicken with arak and clementine. Okay. Which comes from a great cookbook called Jerusalem, written by an Israeli and a Palestinian. And I bring it up because on first glance at this recipe, you've got 6 or 7 ingredients. You got arak, you have to squeeze lemon and orange, you got fennel seeds that you got. And if you look at it on paper, it's like, whoa, I can't do this. It took me exactly 10 minutes.
To do the whole thing?
To do the whole thing. So we put these artificial things in front of us, and it's a limiting way of expressing yourself.
It's negativity, or it's, what is it? Some circles. It's called analysis paralysis.
Yeah,
have you heard that one before? I think I've heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So similar to what you resist persists.
Oh, I don't know that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So the visual on it is there's a tree. The tree is falling. You're holding it up. No matter how strong you are, eventually that tree is going to win.
It's going to win. Unless you're Sisyphus, right?
Now the other thing that you could do, instead of just holding it, you could just step aside and let go.
You could.
And let it fall. So
and therein lies potential wisdom.
Yes. From the man of La Mancha, Pancho says whether the stone hits the pitcher or the pitcher hits the stone, it's going to be pretty bad for the pitcher.
Now I got to go back and do that. That's pretty good stuff. Yeah, the quips. You're full of them today. So, so go back to living large. Talk to me about some examples that came up to your mind when we're thinking too. Are we thinking too big? Thinking too little? Are we just putting barriers in our way?
Well, I think part of it, and we may have touched upon this in previous podcasts. We tend to live life from a place of scarcity.
Yes, we have. Yes.
And it's that model that I talk about. If I shake you in the middle of the night, blank of the fittest.
Survival.
It's survival. So we come to life from survival. Now, being fit has its place, obviously. Physically fit, mentally fit. I'm not talking about that kind of fitness. So from survival, the only place you can really go is measurement. You have to measure, is there enough?
Okay.
And once you ask that question, it's like, what happens when there's not enough? So we go to a place of fear. And from fear, we go to scarcity. Mm-hmm. And that cycle is repeating itself constantly, daily. You look across the world, I think there are 100 and something conflicts. The model's not working. It's a 20th century model, and it's broken. And We need to find a way to overcome that. We need to understand that you can live life with abundance and with clarity and with dreams that are big
Right.
and accomplishable. Because however you answer the question, you're correct.
There's a good drop too. Okay. Well, if relatively speaking, you're correct. I got to cut that out. Cut that out, Charlie. Well, where do we go to evaluate our own largeness? How can you step out of your own shoes? And I mean, I guess that's what someone like you can help a person do.
Sure.
How can we give a hint at self-evaluation, I guess?
Real simple. I'm a big believer in this, and clients will attest to it. Take a pencil, put it in your hand, take a pad,
Okay.
and just start writing.
Okay.
Start noticing. Start being mindful, right? We've
Okay.
talked about mindfulness, which
Absolutely.
is really about just paying attention.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? How are you communicating? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
These things, if you just start committing them to paper,
Mm-hmm.
they take on a life force of their own.
That's very true. Yeah, we hadn't talked about the committing it to paper or notes or maps or whatever you like to do. It's very true. I've gotten back to a habit that I used to do, Jeff, of something called mind maps, and I'm using a free online tool right now. But it gives, and I'm very graphic, as you know. I like to draw. So when I put things down, as you say, to the pencil and the paper, it gives it a whole different feeling to it. I like, oh, well, now let's talk about that. Whereas if it's in my brain as something I got to do, I might just push it further and further into a corner.
What happens in
don't know
that
why that is, yeah.
that circumstance? What happens is, you go to a place of clutter, which is a place of incompletes, which becomes fodder for inefficiency, for lack of productivity.
Right.
In the business world, for lack of production and profit. And that cycle repeats itself. And that's also a 20th century model that just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
There's the belief system has got to be that I can accomplish whatever it is that I choose to accomplish, assuming that I do the work, assuming that I've got the vision, assuming that I've got the clarity.
Right.
I come back to that word often because
Sure.
that really is power in life.
I can see that it drives it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of communications. Clarity of communications is your goals, your idea of living large. I'd like to live larger than I live today. So.
But, part of that is how much of yourself are you putting out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
How brave are you? How courageous are you to actually follow a dream
Right.
and put into place mechanisms that would allow you to accomplish them?
Yeah.
And again, we tend to overcomplicate these things. It's really rather simple.
Right.
Simple is different than easy, and that's how we get into each other. That's how we get in our own way.
Yeah.
But it's really simple. What do you want? What do you need to do to get it?
Yeah.
And who do you have to be in order to do what you know you need to do in order to have what you know you want to have?
Wow. That's very well stated, though. And that just leads you down to the next question and the next action and the next response and the next proaction.
Yeah.
Wow. I had not quite thought of it that way, Jeff, but I'm so when we go home, dear listener, let's try to take some notes and then think about how to get there. And put some simple steps.
And don't be
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Let go of the fear. The fear that holds us back is not real. That's just something in our head. Back in the day, we would call
But it sure is in your head.
Oh yeah, it's loud.
I've had that fear. I got to tell you, from my own experience, making a change is the scariest thing in the world. When you're in a place, maybe in a rut, as I may have been once, and saying I'm going to do something different, that's pretty scary stuff. Now we put the scare on ourselves, I think, somewhat.
Look, so there's fear. Going back to the days of fight or flight, and that's a real fear. I mean, that's a biophysical reaction where your amygdala gland excretes adrenaline, and you make a choice: am I going to fight or am I going to flee?
Yeah.
And there's all that stuff that happens when adrenaline's going. That's one kind of fear. The fear we're talking about is just false expectations appearing real. It's the story that we tell ourselves. It's the belief that, oh my goodness, if this happens, I can't handle it.
Sure. Sure.
The fact is that we are able to handle whatever happens in life to us. From the most glorious things to the most horrible things.
Yeah.
The sun does come up.
Yeah.
And we need to make a choice. Are we going to get up with the sun? And if you are, then you might as well live life large.
Well said. Okay. Wow. And now when I'm listening to you, I'm hearing with a different set of ears, and I'm thinking, this doesn't mean living life large and getting more, but just living life largely today. The precious present, as Spencer, I forgot his last name, says in his book. Yeah. Wow. Well, then I'm living pretty large because I'm living with my friend right now, and I'm doing what I want to do. But I know where I want to go, so maybe I can start quantifying that more. I'm going to challenge myself to, if anybody's listening and has some anecdotes or ideas, we're looking for engagement, guys, and we want to hear about, if you start writing stuff down, please tell us. And we can start sharing notes, because the clarity that living that way, I think, is very exciting. As I said, just starting to jot down, it was very much a coincidence the last few weeks on a map. It's made me think much more clearly. You have your own, I can show it to you, you have your own little place on the map where your logo is, and all the little to-dos and all the little wants. The social media ideas for the Jeff Miller Show are starting to sprout out of there, instead of just sitting in a little corner back here in my gray matter.
And what happens when you put yourself out there, when you begin talking about the things that you want, the things you want to experience, and you start going out and talking to people about it, these things materialize. I've got a speaking engagement next week on a panel discussion for the Capital Area Food Bank, which up until yesterday, it was an opportunity that did not exist. But I was meeting with somebody, I mentioned, interested in this, this, and this, and it's just, the next thing I know, I'm on this panel discussion next week.
Wow.
And that's what I mean about putting yourself out there.
Sure.
It's not about me. It's about how can you have the reality that you want and that you deserve. It's not a mystery. It's not something that's only a secret potion only for the chosen few.
But that's what we think it is, Jeff.
Well, I've shared with you my favorite Warren Buffett quote is, you don't need to be extraordinary to accomplish extraordinary things.
Yeah.
It's revolutionary.
Yep.
In its message, really.
Yeah, it really is. And did you hear...
With all due respect to Bernie.
Wait, no, never mind. We're not going political today.
No, we're not.
Or maybe ever.
Well, I don't know about ever, Charlie.
But Warren Buffett was in the news today. Did you hear?
No.
So the shareholders meeting is in a little town out west. I apologize, Mr. Buffett, for not remembering. And 40,000 people come in.
Wow.
And they bump, it's a year's worth of income or whatever the WTOP said, and they're going to serve 3 months of steaks at the steakhouse in one weekend. There's not a car to be rented or a bed to be found, but all the shareholders come in for his annual meeting. It's very exciting. Interesting. Sometime I must do some real reading about Warren Buffett. I haven't, but there's a few quotes of his that I think are very, very valid. And strange fact, hang on, Betsy. Strange fact, I know Warren Buffett's sister.
Do you?
Dolores. Yes. She used to tour with Jimmy Buffett as a sort of a tour mother. She's a crazy, wonderful, awesome person I met sailing down the Intercoastal Waterway with my dad. There you go, Betsy. That's just for you. But always love hearing about him. Well, so living large. That's our show title today. Jim.
Sounds good to me.
You came with a topic, with a show title, and with great content. You've brightened my day, my friend.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
So I'm going to share some maps with you, and we'll run on. Please let us know your thoughts and comments, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for the Jeff Miller Show. Thanks, Jeff.
Always a pleasure, Charlie. Thanks so much.
The Jeff Miller Show is brought to you by Podcast Village, located at Launch Workplaces in Gaithersburg, Maryland. If you would like to contact Jeff or Charlie, please tweet to @PodcastVillage or @JeffMillConsult. You can also email Jeff at jeff@jmconsultingalliance.com. What story would you like to tell?